Two disabled children were buried 34,000 years ago with more treasure than most kings in recorded history ever received at death. More than 10,000 hand-carved ivory beads, 300 fox teeth, each individually pierced, 16 mammoth spears, 20 armbands. The beads alone, at roughly 1 hour to carve each one, represent 10,000 hours of human labor. That is more than 4 years of someone working every single day, doing nothing else, just to decorate the bodies of two children who could barely walk. This was before any civilization, before farming, before writing, before any of the structures we associate with organized human culture. A small group of hunter-gatherers, surviving a Russian ice age with basic tools, decided that burying two sick children with every precious thing their community possessed was the most important use of their time. That decision is 34,000 years old, and it is one of the most human things ever discovered. The Sungir burial site in Russia is the most spectacular prehistoric burial ever found, and the detail that stops researchers cold is not the quantity of the grave goods. It is who received them. When DNA analysis was run on the two children buried head to head in that grave, the results changed everything researchers thought they understood about prehistoric social structure. The children were not related to each other. They were not the children of the community's leader. They were not royalty in any biological sense. They were two sick boys, physically disabled, who could not have contributed much to a hunter-gatherer group living on the edge of survival during an ice age, and their community gave them everything. The older boy's skeleton showed a femur so bowed and short it would have made walking painful and difficult. The younger boy's teeth showed almost nowhere at all, which in a prehistoric hunter-gatherer means one thing. He was not eating solid food. He was being fed by hand for an extended period of time before he died. In a group where every able body was needed for survival, someone was feeding this child every day. And when he died, they buried him with 10,000 carved beads. Whatever drove that decision, it was not rational by any survival calculus. It was something else, something that looked, at 34,000 years old, recognizably like love. But Sungir is recent compared to what else the prehistoric burial record contains, and what it contains keeps pushing the origin of this impulse further and further back into creatures that had no business feeling any of it. In South Africa, inside a cave system called Rising Star, researchers found something that the scientific community is still arguing about: the remains of at least 15 individuals of a species called homonality, placed deep inside a chamber that sits more than 100 meters through the cave from the nearest entrance. Homonality had a brain roughly the size of an orange, 1/3 the size of ours. By every framework science had used until that discovery, a creature this small-brained was not supposed to be capable of anything resembling ritual, of any intentional behavior around death, and yet the bodies are there, in the dark, in a specific chamber, with no evidence of any other activity, no food, no tools, no signs of anyone ever living in that space. Just the dead, placed there over and over again across a long span of time. The research team sat on this finding for years before publishing, because the implication was something the field was not ready for. Homonality appears to have been burying its dead at least 250,000 years ago, at least 100,000 years before the earliest confirmed Homo sapiens burial ever found. A creature with a brain the size of an orange was doing something we thought was ours alone, and to do it, it had to navigate half a mile of pitch-black cave tunnels, which means it had light, fire, or something equivalent in a creature this ancient. One discovery, two rewrites of human history simultaneously, but inside that same cave, the team found something even harder to explain. On the walls of the corridor connecting the burial chamber to the rest of the cave, they found engravings, geometric shapes cut deep into hard dolomite rock, crosshatches, lines, patterns, deliberately made in a location so remote and specific that the only species whose remains have ever been found in that part of the cave is homonality itself, a small-brained creature in complete darkness, carving symbols into rock beside the place where it put its dead. The symbols are not random marks. They are deliberate patterns engraved with enough force and repetition to cut through extremely hard stone. What they mean is something we cannot know, but the act of making them, in that specific place, beside those specific remains, suggests something that the researchers have been careful and cautious about naming. It suggests that homonality was not just placing its dead somewhere. It was marking the place, saying something about it, communicating something to someone about what that space was and what happened there. That is not disposal of the dead. That is close to the threshold of what we would call belief. Now go even further back, to a cave in northern Spain called Atapuerca. In a chamber researchers named the Pit of Bones, the remains of at least 28 individuals of a species called Homo heidelbergensis were found, dating to 430,000 years ago. They were not killed there. There's no evidence of a disaster, no predator activity, no sign these people died in this place. They were brought here and placed in this chamber nearly 500,000 years ago. Buried with them was a single object, one-hand axe made from deep red quartzite stone that does not exist anywhere near the cave. Someone had traveled a significant distance specifically to find a red stone, carried it back, and placed it with the dead. The axe had never been used as a tool. It was pristine, a journey made and an object given, for a reason that had nothing to do with survival. The researchers named it Excalibur. Red appears in prehistoric burials across every continent and every era. Red ochre painted on bones, red stones placed with the dead, red pigment applied to bodies before burial. Always red, always deliberate, always associated with the dead rather than the living. The leading interpretation is that red meant blood, blood meant life, and placing red with the dead was a way of giving life back to them, of sending them somewhere with the thing they would need most. A creature nearly 500,000 years old believed that, made a journey for it, gave a gift for a destination it could not see. Here is what all of this together tells us. The impulse to honor the dead, to mark their passing, to give them things for a journey nobody could prove was real, did not begin with us. It did not begin with civilization or religion or language. It runs deeper than our species. It runs through creatures we classified as too primitive to feel what we feel, doing things in the dark that we recognize immediately because we're still doing them. Homonality carried its dead through 1/2 mile of darkness because something in it insisted that the dead mattered. A creature 430,000 years ago traveled for red stone because something in it insisted that the dead needed to be given something. 2 sick children were buried with 10,000 ivory beads because something in their community insisted that who these children were in life deserved to be declared loudly in death. That something has no name in biology. It predates language. It predates us. And it has never stopped.